re-election for Alderman of Ward 10. I'm married to my wife Debbie, and our daughter Lauren is a senior at Bryant University. I am a lifelong resident of Manchester. I graduated from Central High School, Daniel Webster College, and the New Hampshire Police Academy. I spent over 34 years in law enforcement. Throughout my career, I have worked on several missing children cases, bringing all of them home safely. In 2007, I was named the National Law Enforcement Officer of the Year by the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. In 2011, I received a special badge from former FBI Director Robert Mueller for capturing one of the FBI's 10 most wanted fugitives. Also in 2011, I was assigned to work on a 10-year-old unsolved murder. Together with my good friend, former Manchester Police Detective Bob Freitas, we were able to solve this case and bring closure to the family and friends of the victim, who was a former business owner in Ward 10. I volunteered my time in the Manchester community for over 40 years. I coached youth baseball, basketball, and football. I also volunteered at the Webster House, Salvation Army, Boys and Girls Club, Make-A-Wish Foundation of New Hampshire, Big Brothers Big Sisters, as a mentor at Bakersville School, and several other local organizations. Since I took office as your alderman in 2014, I have been able to add over 70 more police officers to our force, resulting in extra patrols in Ward 10, as well as making sure that our residents and businesses are safe and protected. I have also made sure that our roads are well maintained. I have had over 70 streets reconstructed and paved in Ward 10. I will continue this effort when you re-elect me as your alderman. I have always voted to properly fund our schools so that our children receive the best education possible, and making sure that our teachers get the support that they deserve. Constituent service is the most important role as an alderman. I am proud to have answered over 4,000 calls and emails over the 10 years as your alderman. I act promptly and get results quickly. I am hoping that I have your support, and I would appreciate your vote on Tuesday, November 7th at Parker Varney School. Thank you to Manchester Public Television for giving me this opportunity. Stay safe.
Hi, and welcome to Ward 13. My co-host today is Mikey Martineau.
Hey.
And hello, Mikey. Why don't you introduce our special guest?
Our guest today is Ward 10 Alderman Bill Bailey.
Who is your alderman
Yeah,
and was
yes,
mine for 8 years. Yeah. Bill, we've known each other 10 years now.
10 years, I know.
2013 election.
Yeah, that's when it all started.
That's when I met your aunt.
That's right, my Aunt Kay, who
Aunt Kay.
unfortunately
And I
passed
always
away.
had an Aunt Kay myself. She was a lovely person. I think I met her before I met you.
Well, I think you may have met her. Did you meet
At
her
the primary.
Yeah.
Because the Hamers always would go out and volunteer.
Yeah, I remember when Kathy Staub gave me a call and said, "Hey, I'd like you to meet someone," and it was John Hopwood and the Hamers, Heidi and Gary Hamer, and we had a fundraiser over at the Rayfield Club.
Oh yeah.
And, that's when that's the very first day I met you.
And you told me later Bill Cashin wanted to meet me.
Yes.
That was like a year later.
Yeah. Well.
Who you succeeded him and George Smith.
Yeah.
We won't mention the one-termer in between.
But it was Bill Cash, and we talked about him. I mean, obviously the guy was the dean, and he was
32 years.
32 years on the west side. I think 20-something in Ward 10, right?
Ward 1. He was in Ward 11 the first term. I think it was 71, and then somebody was angry at him, so they what do they call it? Gerrymandered.
Yeah.
A Winter Street into Ward 10, thinking he was going to lose. But there was that guy that was the alderman, long-term alderman, and then he became, because I'm from Ward 10, like Gary, all our lives we lived in Ward 10, and, until I was 18, and then for the years when I came back. There was a guy, I can't remember his name, George something, and if there's somebody out there that remembers him, Heidi or Gary, he decided to run for senator, and so Bill hadn't really no opposition. So he was one term from Ward 11 and then 15 straight terms for Ward 10. And now you've done 5 straight terms.
5 so far, yeah.
Yeah, you came over from the east side.
From the east side, and Michael over here, he has my alma mater shirt on,
Yep.
Central. I graduated from Central High School, and now obviously I'm back in West High School. My heart's still with Central, of course. I actually did the football game the other night with Gonzo, and Michael was couldn't make it, so that was would have been nice if all three of us could have attended. But
Yeah, unfortunately, I was already working the Godsmack concert that night. So
That was at the
Snoo,
Snoo Center?
yep, and we have a busy season coming up. We got Seth Meyers doing a charity comedy show on Saturday, and then the fun begins with all until the end of the year and into the new year. So,
Bill, I understand that you grew up around Gill Stadium.
I did.
And
I did.
It must have been a shock. What happened at the football game? I remember I'm West High, which you admirably take care of nowadays. But I don't even think you guys probably, we're both class of '77.
Right.
You Central, and me West. And when my brother Guy, class of '76, started in the 72-73 year, West actually won like one or two titles, like basketball.
Basketball
I
was
don't think they
good,
won
yeah.
football, which was like, oh my God, we won something. And then it went back to the original Evil Empire. It was Central High. They just beat us and everybody else, the Memorial, all the time.
Yeah, Central. Well, a lot of our city schools had great athletes and great teams at one time or another, and
But Central was the powerhouse.
Yeah, Central did well over the years.
But it didn't do so well.
Friday night. Well, it's funny because their first drive of the game, Central got the kickoff, and they actually marched down the field, and unfortunately ended up turning the ball over. A guy had a nice catch for a pass, was running and got tackled, dropped the ball. Pinkerton got it 2 plays later. They were in the end zone, and it was like a 75-yard drive, and it was only 2 plays, but Pinkerton ended up scoring. So
But it's
Central
not like the
Central
old
shot
days.
themselves. I mean, they have won without the turnovers? Absolutely not. But it would have been an interesting game.
Now, what's happened in citywide sports? This talk like consolidating certain teams across the high schools.
Well, I saw it a few years ago. I played sports in Manchester. I played
you
baseball, basketball, football. Then I coached. Danny O'Neill, back when I was like 19, 20 years old, called me up and said he was coaching Manchester Pony League baseball, and he asked if I would coach with him. And myself and a few other friends got together with him. We helped. We actually won a championship there, and so we did well. So Danny got me started in giving back to the city as far as sports go. But one of the things I made sure that I did, I played Pop Warner football, CYO basketball, and I played for Central, but I also played Central Little League and Pony League and Coat League. So and then I coached in Babe Ruth. But I made sure that I coached in every league that I ever played in.
Yeah.
So I gave back that way. So because when you get a little older, you start thinking back, and you start thinking back of the coaches, the people that have taught you, and the people you respected, and so on. One of them being Ron Bouchard. Ron Bouchard was my coach when I was playing Pop Warner football, the East Blue Devils in Manchester, and very, very hard-nosed coach, very disciplined. And when I mean discipline, you wouldn't get away with it now, which I wish it was back because it worked.
Yeah.
Because it develops you into a good person, and I've always thanked him. Matter of fact, when I first ran, he was my printer. I called him up because he retired from Keystone Press, went on to do his own, and so I called him up, and he was doing my printing. And he just passed away a couple weeks ago.
Now, you didn't grow up on the like in Bedford or in Gentile side. You grew up like a lot of people did, myself included. It got cold sometimes in winter, and sometimes the car broke down.
And sometimes you were hungry.
Right, and not so much with me, but I remember when you don't have a car for like 2 years, how your neighbors that do have a car, this is like around 1970, look at you. But for somebody that, has a little harder time as a kid, how important is sports and like being part of the team and being coached?
Yeah, well, see, and that's really that's a great question, and and my mother, my mother and father got divorced when we were really young. We had 6 kids, 3 boys, 3 girls, and growing up playing sports. That's another reason why I wanted to give back. And it wasn't just sports; it was also the Salvation Army, the Boys and Girls
Right.
Club, and then I started working with other organizations as well. I was the president of the Webster House. I was on the board of directors for like 13 years. But what made it important for me I knew how my mother struggled. You don't see it again. You don't see it till
Right.
later on in life, because when you're a kid and you're poor, I never saw it as being poor. I had a ball. I mean, I had so much fun. I wouldn't change it for the world. If someone said, "Hey, we're going to start you over again. Your family's going to be well off, and you're going to be," I said, "No, I wouldn't want that," because what we did, we went outside, we played, we made up games ourselves
Yeah.
to play and stuff. It wasn't given to us, So we great neighborhoods that I grew up in, a lot of fun neighborhoods, a lot of rough neighborhoods. But you know what? It made you stronger as a person.
Yeah, being from the west side up near Penardville, we used to play down by the river, and this was before the Environmental Protection Agency. So, but you tell people about this, oh my God, But we would the dam, and there was a trestle, and all sorts of stuff.
Same with us. I mean, we were,
And an old powerhouse, so we'd always be breaking it.
Yeah.
Oh well, it was flooded too, and I'm just thinking nowadays,
Yeah,
you wouldn't be able to get access to something like
we
that.
actually, growing up early, till I was around 10 or 11, I was actually, we were living down in the Elmwood Garden projects down off of South Elm. And again, I mean, that, we were never in the house. Never. And to this day, it's like I wonder, because we didn't have the best of the outfits to wear. I mean, when you went out, you had
What they call
jeans on.
or dungarees is what my mother
Dungarees,
called.
yeah, dungarees, yeah, jeans. You had jeans on, and you had these boots that,
Yeah.
and the winter boots and stuff, and you'd go in there, you're freezing. It's like you wonder now how you got away with not getting hypothermia,
Yeah, I've asked my older sisters about that. So, and you were just put outside, even in winter, build a fort.
Yeah. But the reason why you didn't get sick and freezing is because you're always in motion. You're always doing something. You're always running around, and then you'd get in when it was time to eat, and that was it. So
We were part of that baby boom generation. We're late baby boomers when there were kids like 10 years old, the older sisters and brothers, but there were kids everywhere.
Right.
And mothers didn't work as much then,
Yeah.
although my mother did, and there were women in my neighborhood did. But there always was a place to go, even.
Oh yeah.
But
yeah.
they're all kids.
Yeah. Well,
at that time.
down in Elmwood Garden, my mother worked. She had to. I mean,
Yeah.
she had 6 kids,
mother had to
and
work.
she still got assistance. She got assistance from the federal government. Like the food, and it was, I always
Cheese.
say macaroni and cheese. That's
Cheese,
that was
right.
the big thing. You have as much as you want. But I remember back when Dan Goonan, not the one that's running obviously for Alderman Award 2, but his dad, Dan Goonan, Officer Goonan,
Right, he was a
and
policeman.
Officer Mike Walsh were the 2 guys that would come down to Elmwood Garden, and they would have, and we would have a community center, and it was always on a Wednesday night, and they would come down and talk to us, and we'd be in there, and it was great. And you know what? When you remember it, that means it was important.
Did the truant officer ever come looking for you?
They actually, it's funny you say that. I went to a Catholic school, and I was
okay.
I was in first grade, and I got really, really ill. They thought I had polio, and
wow.
I was home, and the nuns from St. Casimir sent a truant officer because I hadn't been in, and so he came in, and he came into the house and saw me, and he went back and blasted the school because of how sick I was. It's like saying,
The nuns were very strict in our
Yeah.
generation.
Yeah.
Although, by being a Protestant, I could always. We had a church, St. Edmund's, at the time, right near us. We'd play by it. And,
Right, I remember
the nuns
St.
would
Edmund's.
see you, and they'd ask the names. Then my brother Hopwood, "Oh, you're Protestant." So they couldn't do anything against us.
Yeah, it was. I had a great life growing up, it was good. I've got my daughter.
Yes.
My daughter's a senior at Bryant University now, and she's doing awesome. She already got an offer for a job later on when she graduates, which is really good. And
Well, that's a great school.
yeah, she's the captain of the women's rowing team at Bryant, who's Division I right now.
Which is that's a huge sport in Boston.
Yeah, it is. And unfortunately, she was gonna row in the head of the Child's on October
regatta.
21st weekend, and she couldn't do it because she broke her ankle.
Oh.
Not doing that. She it was really slippery. It was it was a Saturday, and she was walking down some stairs and tripped and ended up fracturing her ankle. And sad, but
Yeah,
you
you're
know
not
what?
going to be
Yeah.
able to roll
Yeah,
because you.
Right, you got to use your feet, and your legs, and it's part of it, not just your arms. And but the good thing is she did row in it last year as a junior, so
Yeah.
that's good. So she's got that under her belt. Plus, she'll continue on in the springtime because that's another part of their season.
Now, would you recommend if there was a good job in Manchester for your daughter to locate here? Because I have a friend, his daughter's now he lives in New York, but she's going to Chicago, and there's certain heartbreak. You want your
Yeah.
kid nearby. If she's in Boston, it's only an hour away. But
Right, and nowadays, as a lot of businesses are doing, you're working from home, so that could come into
It's true.
it could be a benefit, that for them and stuff. So she's she'll decide. She's very, very smart. She's on the dean's list and everything. So that's she's doing well.
But there seems to be a lot of business activity going on in Manchester, like ARM, the
Right, Army.
No, is that what they call it?
Yeah,
Army.
Army, yeah.
When you say Army, you might.
It's ARMI.
I might. I'll have to put
Yeah.
my Tasmanian Devil shirt on if I
Yeah.
think of the
Yeah.
Army.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're hiring. Carol Robideau of Manchester Inklink had the release that they're looking for interns who are paid.
Oh, okay.
And they only have to be high school graduates. So this isn't your daughter, but they will go get paid, I think, for a year or two, and then they take a couple of courses at the community college, which are probably
Right.
about their biofabrication of, I guess they're going to do human organs and stuff like that. But that's right here, centered in Manchester.
It's
amazing.
It's funny how some people will dump on the city of Manchester
Right.
saying how bad it is, and come on, seriously, you got to have a little pride, and you know what, if you think it's bad, then jump in, and help out. You don't have to be an elected official to be part of the solution, I guess, if you want to call it that. But you look down the mill yard and you look at all the rehab. And that's why a lot of people will, some people will say, like Joyce Craig isn't doing a good job. Well, she's doing a hell of a job.
Yeah.
If they only knew all the work that she puts in to running the city of Manchester, all the federal funding that she was able to get, from Gene Shaheen and even the Congress and our senators, all 4 Democrats that have been helping her out. She reaches out to them and they give money back to the city of Manchester. We're not getting, the state of, I'm not knocking the state of New Hampshire because they do, give us some money, but they don't give us enough. They don't, it's not them, it's the federal funding that's benefiting Manchester, New Hampshire.
Right. One thing that when we had the change of mayor and Joyce became mayor, BAE, which my father sold his stock, I think, in Simmons Precision, which became part of BAE, to help me go to college, and I always remember that because that became part of BAE, and of course Raytheon was here in Manchester. I think that's part of BAE too. But BAE was in Nashua,
Right.
and it started, remember, opening up places, Merrimack, but it would not come to Manchester. We won't say what.
Yeah.
But when Joyce became mayor,
Right, they're here.
suddenly, okay, we're going to take my mother. Well, I've known Gary Hamer since I was a kid. He's like part of the family. One of the first jobs he had after he went to college was at Home Insurance, which is BAE. My mother worked
And now
there,
look at
too.
BAE in Manchester, 800 new jobs,
Right, the old Pine Island Park, and they used to have a drive-in theater.
But you know what's funny about the mill yard? My grandmother and my aunts and my grand aunts and
father.
stuff, they all worked down there. My grandmother worked for Pandora Sweaters and things like that. And one of the things that's one of the it's so cool when I have a lot of pride in Manchester. I think
Yeah.
we're doing great, and I think it's more good things to come. But you go back in time, and the Amoskeag Mills. The Amoskeag Mills was the mills that actually provided the material for Levi's.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it was the Amoskeag Mills. You look it up, you Google it, and it's funny. That's where they got the material out of Manchester, New Hampshire for Levi's.
Well, Manchester in World War One was the leading producer of khaki, and there's all sorts of stories like that. Then there was we also manufactured muskets in the Civil War, cannon, locomotives, and some of the first fire engines.
Yeah, and you look at some of these corporations that are coming in. Dean. Dean Kamen is doing unbelievable with
Right.
using the mill yard to his benefit and to our benefit. Segway, that's worldwide. It's always advertised. If I travel somewhere, and even I don't travel outside the country that much now, but I did. I went outside of
that's all
couple of
over.
times. Yeah, but they were always offering Segways, different hotels and so on and so forth. So it's great, but.
But Dean's genius was he miniaturized things like insulin pumps and stuff like that. And I was at the VA up here in Manchester, and we've been up there at times when Senator Shaheen announced that initiative for veterans, and you were up there with me. But they showed a new artificial arm. It was amazing what he had done.
Right.
Watching it was just incredible.
Yeah.
And but Dean Kamen would not be investing here and being centered in Manchester if what the naysayers said was true.
Right, exactly.
If the board,
Absolutely.
if the mayor was,
and not only him,
and the board of aldermen were
Right.
part of it too.
and not only him, but look at all these other Dine. Look at what happened with them.
Yeah.
How they just grew and grew, and now you've got other companies down there and other companies moving in to the mill yard. What, Manchester's that bad? It just makes me laugh when people say, people are moving out of Manchester. Well, guess what? There's a lot of goddamn people moving into Manchester.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's
a lot of movement people in it. Let's talk about Mike here, my good buddy Mike.
Yeah.
Tell him how about where you work during your job during the daytime?
Francois Cafe over on the west side.
Ward 10, buddy.
Ward 10, yep. Been there just over 3 years, and it's a nice family-run business that employs a lot of good people, family-oriented, so it's great.
Every time I go in there, I ask for Mike.
Yep.
So where's my good buddy Mikey?
Yeah. Usually I'm able to come out.
Yeah,
Usually,
you are. He's busy. He works hard.
Yeah. And we have the Meals on Wheels program, and they're dealing with that right now. So it's like we've got a lot of new clientele. So it's like, and we're thriving in that plaza. It's great. But I think out of all the business in that plaza, I think we do the most business, to be honest.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That's a tough little plaza. I mean, you guys are lucky. Francois is lucky because we do have some good parking right there.
Yeah.
And when you serve breakfast and lunch,
Yeah.
it's probably a good thing because dinner starts to.
Well, tell them
slow
where it
down a little.
is.
At 488 South Main Street, corner of South Main and
Almost Boynton.
Boynton.
Boynton, right.
Yeah, Boynton,
Yeah.
Boynton, Milford.
Right across from Budget Gas, right in
Yes.
that little mall where Grand Slam Pizza used to be in
Yeah,
there.
they're doing renovations in there right now, in where Grand Slam is. So
Yeah.
Was that Tommy K's original spot?
It was Tommy K's.
Yeah, and then he sold the location and the name. Yeah.
I'll tell you what's good. When Debbie and I, when we moved in Lauren, Lauren was 2 years old when we moved into Ward 10 and where we live now in 2004. It's such not just where we live, it's a cul-de-sac, so it's nice and quiet and not a lot of traffic because that's what cul-de-sacs are. that's great in itself. But I know every time that I run for office and I walk the wards, and I get to see not only the people but the properties.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, you talk about pride. The people in Ward 10, and I'm not knocking any other ward, but the people in Ward 10 have so much pride in their property. It just makes you happy when you're walking up to them. You get a chance to talk to them and acknowledge to them, what a great job they're doing.
There was a local politician who's frequently been an opponent of you, but has seemed to have given up, who made a disparaging remark about French Canadians, like was it last year, which got Rich Girard very upset, and quite a few people, because everybody that knew the French Canadians, there was a significant French Canadian population on the west side, and in Ward 10, second language is French. They had such a pride in taking care of their homes,
right,
or their apartments.
Right. Oh yeah,
they were
exactly.
famous for that. It was just like, these are people that are not from Manchester saying this ridiculous thing, and Victoria Sullivan was there. That had to do with Ward 11 and some group that was going to fix it up. It turned out to be a Free Staters group.
Yeah.
But to say something about that, it just shows the ignorance of certain things. But not everybody that's a new person to Manchester is ignorant. But we all come from. We were talking about this last week with Mikey. When we had the other Patrick Long on, because he's an immigration lawyer. It's just, what's the West Side? You go Bismarck Street. There were Germans. There were Belgians.
Yeah.
There were specifically Belgians, French speaking,